What I'm going to show you here is how to use MLA citation style for crediting resources that you've used in any research or other project. A little bit of an introduction. The first thing is why we actually want to cite our sources. Well, it's to give credit to the people that we've used information from. It's so that once you have submitted something, somebody can go back and actually check to see that your information is factual from the original sources, and as well so people can find out more information about your topic by reading your resources if they are interested. So for when we use MLA citation as opposed to other popular citation styles such as APA in Chicago, my rule of thumb is to use MLA for humanities type projects. I typically use APA for more scientific work, so I just make that the distinction between the two of them. There are numerous other citation styles. Basically, if you're submitting an assignment, make sure with your instructor first which citation style is preferable, but it's usually good that when you start using something, just stay consistent with it. Now, for where we find out more information about MLA citation, I've got a web address here, which I'll just show you very briefly. So I'll go back to that example in a second. This is the Concordia University Library's resource of how to use the citation style. There's some good stuff here with an introduction, updates with the new version. There's a new version of MLA citation that was released in 2009. But what I really like is this whole section down here, which shows you several different examples of sort of works cited. So for a book with one author, you would follow this generally to figure out how to format a book with one author. And there's a whole bunch of things here that work really well. A translation, a government publication, and there's some more obscure things the further you go down here. So this is a really good resource if you need to know more about MLA citation. So go back to our show here. So here's a really simple example, which is kind of the starting point for citation, which would be a book with only one author. So the first thing that we're going to include here is the name of the author. When you're crediting somebody, the most important thing is who created that original source. So we always put the author's name first. The next thing that we put in is in this case, the name of what they created. Outliers, the story of success, and note that it is italicized. So we're going to see a couple examples. When you use quotation marks, when you italicize things, you no longer underline things using MLA citation. Okay, so then we put the publisher and when it was published. And then this is fairly common now, but not with older versions of MLA. You show the type of the product. Now with things on the web, you could be looking at a web version as opposed to a print version. In this case, if you were listening to the audio book and that's what you used as your resource, you wouldn't put print, you would put the audio book here because sometimes that they are abridged. So you always need to indicate what the type of product is. Okay, so here's a little bit more complicated. We'll take a look at this is an article from the New York Times online newspaper. This is just the first paragraph, and I've got the address down here. So again, we always start with the name of the person who created the product. So here, then when it's the name of an article or when it's a piece of something, typically you're going to put it in quotation marks. So that's when typically for an article or a smaller piece of a larger whole, you'd put quotation marks. Then you're going to put where it's from. In this sense, it is the New York Times released this. It's the publisher, technically. So you'd put the publisher here and then the year that it was published. Okay. Here, what we would do is if this was in fact say a magazine or something, we would need to indicate the page number, but because it's an online product, we need to indicate that there is no page indicated. Otherwise it looks like if you just leave this out altogether, it looks like you're trying to hide the original source. So you just put an NPAG here with these periods to indicate that there is no page on which this appears. And then we need to indicate the type of media. So I found this article on the internet, so I put web here. And because the internet can change, you need to indicate when you last accessed this. So in this case, it was accessed on June 7th, 2011. So we need to indicate that as the date of access because this can change, but through certain archive services, you can go back and look at older versions of websites, though it is unlikely that they will make an edit to this particular article. Okay, so now we'll take a look at one other example, which would be a little bit obscure. So this would be the situation where I wanted to use a track from John Lennon's Imagine LP specifically. So I would be, for some reason, in this very strange research project that I'm doing, using a track for information from this record. So first thing you would do is it will be a particular song, so you need to indicate who wrote the song. So I'm going to put John Lennon's name here. And then the name of the song, Give Me Some Truth, which is part of a whole. So this is why we put quotation marks here. And then I'm listing the album name here. And because this is the LP, I'm going to need to indicate that it is found on side B. Now we put the publisher, which in this case is the record label that released the album, EMI. The date that it was released, we just put generally here 1971. That's sufficient. And then I need to indicate the format of the media. So in this case, it's a long play record, or just put LP record here. So this is a very obscure example, but you can see that it sort of follows the same pattern that everything else did. So when we're done all that, this is an imaginary research project that has these three very odd sources for my information. So the first thing that we need to do is pay attention to the way that it is formatted. The first line, which is the line on which the name of the author appears, is outdented. And then every line afterwards is indented. So if this one ended up being, say, 5 lines long, only the first one would be at this margin, and then every other line would be indented. Now we have to fix something up here slightly because your works cited is always going to be alphabetized. So GHL. So alphabetized by last name of author, so that it's easier to find, especially when you have quotations in your work. And the other thing is, your works cited is typically on a page by itself, and it's also double spaced. That's just fairly typical formatting for your works cited in a research project. Now, if we take a look at this, I'm going to show sort of the way that they're structured and show you a little bit of the similarities between the different citations. So, as I mentioned before, you always start with the author. So we've got the author here is highlighted in blue, so they're all similar. You start with the author. The next thing is you say what it is that you actually used for your research. So in this case, it's an entire book. This one is an article, and then this one is a track from an album. And now you need to say sort of where it exists. So with this one, it's its own book, so we don't have to specify beyond that. Here it's on the New York Times, and on the bottom here, this is from an album, and I've said which side it's on. The next is the publisher. In this example, we've got the publisher and when it was published. So we've got the publisher here and then the date. This is very typical. The sort of larger whole is also the publisher for the second example, and there's no page indicated. And then with this last one, EMI is the record label, and it was released in 1971. The next thing that we do here is we indicate what type the media is, so print, web, LP record. For web, here we need to also indicate the date on which we accessed the material. Okay, so typically you start with the author, creator. Then what you would do is you would put the name of the work that you are citing. Sometimes if it's part of a whole, you'd need to indicate the complete work that it is a part of. Then your publishing information, any details that are additional usually show up here. And then the medium in which you looked at it. So this was for print, web, audio. Sometimes you might need to put lecture here if you attended a lecture, and this is basically how you took in the product. And of course, this wouldn't be complete without citing where I got some of the information for this presentation, and this is from the MLA Citation style website that we looked at earlier in this video. So you should have all the information you need to now do some MLA citation. So have fun with that, and thank you for watching.